As I said during my deconversion series, there are numerous stories in my life that I had eliminated because I didn't feel that they were pertinent enough to my deconversion to leave in, or that I had felt that they were a little too long and would have served much better purpose as a standalone video series, such as the Evolution series. Also, I've been asked by many subscribers in many of my comment sections to write a book about my experiences. I've been working on doing just that, and as of today, I am at 101 pages. And that spans the expansion of my entire deconversion series up to part 5, I believe. Meaning that by the time I'm done, I should have a book that encompasses over 300 pages. This particular story happened in the winter of 1999. And chronologically could be placed in the middle of part 4 of my deconversion series. So if you haven't watched the series, you should probably go back and watch up to at least part 4 so you understand the backstory and who the people are. Though I believe that if you are a new subscriber or a person who hasn't watched that, you could probably just listen to this and you won't get too confused. So without further ado, here is an excerpt from my autobiography. Aiden was in an institution at the time of the party. I cried and told him what had happened. He could do little else but laugh at me in his manic states. I visited him there, bringing him books and things that were thoroughly inspected by people in the mental ward. His attempted suicide was met by most of our friends as business as usual. The voices said, "He'll get better," or "It's just a cry for attention," and I believed them. So during my visits to the psych ward, I did little else but talk about things that didn't matter to him. I knew what had set him off, of course. He had broken up with Beverly. I also thought that bringing her up would only upset him more. I was checked for weapons, and the books I brought him were sifted for razor blades and drugs. None were forthcoming. I remember the clinician appeared disappointed that I hadn't brought anything illegal for him. Clad in a baggy pair of sweatpants with the tie removed and a smelly t-shirt, he seemed like a different person. As we walked the halls, I remember Aiden's numerous attempts to explain how he felt at each moment, and I remember not understanding. Everything is boring, and you are boring. Even after being insulted in such a way, I didn't break down. What happened to you at the party? You deserved that, because you allow him to hurt you. Wanting to change the subject, I asked, "How can I help?" "You brought the books, now leave." "I'm worried about you." "It's pointless. Don't worry about me. I'm too far gone." "I hate how contemptuous you are of me, Aiden. I haven't done anything to deserve that." He laughed. "I'm contemptuous of you because you are contemptible. Why don't you go and play with your boyfriend?" I took this one off the nose and gave back. "I talked to Bev the other day. She's with a guy named Sean." He didn't care. "Yeah, I've seen him. I'm more handsome. Now why don't you go be somewhere else? God knows you really don't want to be here." I did and didn't want to be there. I was upset that I didn't have the magical words to make him snap out of his depression. "I thought you didn't believe in God." "It's a figure of speech, you contemptible homo. Now get out of here." His grin was wide and bit right through me. I had left and did not return for several weeks. It was winter vacation of 1998 turning over to 1999, and we were on Christmas vacation. I had gotten my first car, a 1991 Pontiac Grand Am. It was a piece of shit with a rotted exhaust system, but it was freedom, and I loved it. Now, everything in New England was only a stone's throw away, and Bobby needed me more now than ever, to shorten the distance between him and other people. I still remember the joyous feeling I got when he would call and ask to hang out, even if he was only using me for my car. The phone rang on a Friday morning of a weekend before we were supposed to go back to school. Bobby was on the other end asking me to come over. Sure, why not? When I got to his home, which was less than a mile down the street from mine, he invited me into his room. On his bed was a packed bag, an open map book with a line drawn from central Massachusetts to an area in southern Maine, and a small pile of money, which I can only assume that he had gotten as a Christmas present, though later I would question that. He said, "I have enough money to get us to Maine and back. We should take a road trip. We should visit our old friend Mark." I didn't even think twice. It sounded like a good idea at the time. After all, I had never driven to Maine myself, only with my parents. So we packed and I hit 95 north to Maine. It was one of the few times I can remember having a full day with him, without him poking fun at my sexuality. I discovered that just like me, he held his breath over the Piscataqua Bridge upon entry to Maine. We did so, and after, we morbidly wondered what a fall off the highest point of the bridge would do to a person. We laughed like young men do, like friends. I let him drive my car without a license, hoping, wishing for something to happen. But under my reserve, there was always a gnawing feeling like anything could happen, including something terrible. It was never a rational concern like getting pulled over with an unlicensed driver behind the wheel, or the considerable amount of weed that Bobby had packed away in his bag being discovered, or perhaps the alcohol that my brother had purchased us before we left, but something else, something as simple as an insult from him. None was forthcoming for quite a long time. But how many cruelties can one person endure before they give up? In that way, he was like a god to me, beautiful yet untouchable, intelligent yet calculating, authoritative yet cruel, always with everything just in reach, yet completely unworthy of my adoration. Maybe only lovelorn boys with their hearts on their sleeves can understand this. That the chance, the mere possibility of something good happening, however unlikely, outweighed most, if not all, cruelties. By night, we had reached Mark's apartment building in Saco, and the Maine air was crisp and cold. Subtle reminders of delightful parts of my past spent here in the beautiful state came over me. It made the short road trip there all the more delightful. We approached his door, and when it opened, a different Bobby walked right in and hugged Mark. They hadn't seen each other in a year, and their embrace was difficult for me to watch. Apparently, Bobby hadn't told him that we were coming, but it was still a welcome visit. His father invited us in to dinner, and we obliged. We were starving and had spent most of our money on gas and tolls, and I had only enough money to get back. How were we to have more fun on this weekend road trip? We hatched a plan, which was actually an old plan, something that we had done before. Each of us would make trips into the local grocery store explaining to the customer service counter rep that we had accidentally put a 5 in the soda machine outside. They would then refund us the lost money. Rotating between us, it looked less suspicious. Most times it worked. However, for some reason I always said that the machine ate my money, and when they asked how much, I said only $1 or $2. Somehow it felt better that I was only lying about losing $1 rather than 5 or 10. Bobby and I had done this a few times before, and it yielded great results. Don't think that I am an innocent follower in this. It was actually my idea. Bobby, with his cute smile and deep blue eyes, would look petulantly at the young representative, saying, "I accidentally put a 10 in the machine. How can I get it back?" The suspicious look of the rep would melt away in those eyes no matter what sex they were, and tell him that all he had to do was sign a form, and he could get the money back. Bobby always signed with a fake name, as did I. By midnight, we had over $50, and another plan had been hatched. We would drive to Ogunquit and spend this cold winter night in Bobby's parents' summer timeshare. He remembered where he left a spare key so we could get in. The home, which was unoccupied most winters, was now encumbered by a group of teenage boys, drinking, smoking weed, and tiring themselves out at around 2 or 3 in the morning. We had picked up 2 more friends that Mark went to high school with in Saco. I can't remember their names, and 5 boys made everything of a cold winter night overlooking the frozen Atlantic Ocean. I awoke the next morning with a scruffy head, a scratchy throat, and sticky eyes. We had fallen asleep in the living room, and it was trashed. Mark laid his face down on the Barca-lounger, with only a throw pillow to comfort him. The 2 other friends laid at opposite ends of the couch with their feet intertwined. Bobby and I were on the floor. I was facing him, adoring his sleeping face as he breathed heavily. The morning sun threw blades of light through the room, and I was watching a halo of light around Bobby's brown and blonde hair. Here and there, dust particles would float across my vision, making the scene of my beautiful yet spiteful and terrible friend all the more wondrous. And I remembered that Satan is the most beautiful of all angels. When he began to stir from his sleep, I shut my eyes, hoping and praying that he hadn't noticed that I was watching him. If he had noticed, I never knew about it. He tapped me and said, "Addie, wake up." I opened my eyes and looked at him guiltily. He continued, "We should get home." I didn't know why he wanted to get home so badly. I said, that's true, we should. I hoped that being as agreeable as possible would help hide my anxiety. He squinted his eyes, asked, "You all right?" "Yeah, I'm just hungover." He rolled his eyes but did not say anything. We packed what little we had and locked the place up, a complete fucking mess. After saying goodbye to the two friends whose names I still can't remember, we hit 95 South with Mark because he just wanted to see his old house again. The ride was pleasant and uneventful, with small talk and loud music. I let Bobby drive my car again when we reached Massachusetts with the hope that something would happen that never would. In just a few short hours, everything would change. We reached Bobby's home, and he asked if I could go home so that he could hang out with his friend and maybe they would call me later. The way he had put it, of course it had hurt me, but I obliged, saying that I was tired from the drive and needed a nap. I left him there, wondering why I couldn't be a part of whatever they were doing. My home was a barren wasteland compared to the amount of fun that I had been having. I paced around the house with a feeling that I would feel many times over the next few weeks. I was angry that a person I had helped had not said thank you, not even once. I know that I was hoping for something that would never happen, like a kiss, a momentary affection, love, maybe. But I did not even receive a thank you. I broke down and cried, not because I realized that this person was not a good friend, but because I had thought bad thoughts about him, and that maybe he knew about it, trading in one obsession for another. I think you get the picture. I don't remember at what point I had fallen asleep, but I remember the phone ringing and ignoring it the first time it rang. From the couch, I just stared at it. The caller ID read Bobby's number, and I was, for a moment, content to make him wait. It rang again and I picked up. Bobby's out-of-breath voice assailed me. "Hey, come get us, please." "Why are you out of breath?" I asked. A long pause, then a deep breath and a sigh, then, "We robbed a house." I felt no fear, but was still a little baffled at what I had just heard. I did not fear like a rational person. I feared the unseen, rather than the things that could actually harm me. He spoke again. "We robbed a house down the street." "Okay, I'll be there soon." And I was. I pulled into the driveway, and they were waiting there on the doorstep, Bobby, Mark, and Nick. They piled in without me even so much as opening the car door to approach the house. Bobby said, "Drive," and I did. "What happened?" I asked. They looked forlorn, exhausted, and excited all at once, rather than fearful. Bobby replied, "You're about to see." As I drove back to my house, I noticed a thing that I had not on the way to Bobby's. I guess I was excited to be of some use again. Bobby and the others ducked as I passed slowly and stared in horror. Down the road at the end of a long, wide driveway, through a late winter mist, I saw a beautiful red country home that I only noticed in passing, as it blends in with the natural surroundings of a New England town. It was illuminated with the blue and red of police lights. Several cops occupied the end of the driveway, and many, perhaps all of the entire complement of the shitty little town, were looking around the backyard for something. What the fuck? I asked all of them, and none of them. "I told you," he said as if I was stupid. "We robbed a house. Now get us out of here." I drove, dumbfounded at what I was hearing, as Bobby began to explain. To be continued. Thank you for watching. So guys, tell me in the comments section, do you like this little excerpt from my book? My hope is to be finished with it by December. Give me your comments, your critiques, whatever. And I'll finish the rest of this part of the story in another video. Also, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe, share it on Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, wherever. And also, if you'd like to become a patron of mine, just click the link below.